Now there is some adhesive here. If you look under there is some kind of adhesive just here, underneath that section. Well, you can see the rubber's being cut away over that section. And more adhesive there. Not quite sure what that adhesive is. Doesn't want to come out of that groove. Squirrel. There we go. There we go. Okay. Right. So that's the old rubber seal out. As I said, there's little bits of corrosion, mainly on the latch side, not but the hinges are here and here and here, and there doesn't seem to be particularly any corrosion there. Right, now to see about getting the lens out, the glass out, the acrylic. So this lens, this acrylic, is definitely bedded in on this surface with a soft foam that is just stuck, lightly stuck to the acrylic. It's not silicone at that point. And we'll turn it over and have a look on the other side. So look at the other side now. You can see the foam, but here, this is silicone. It looks like a black silicone as well, all the way around, but it looks like it's only siliconed in on that edge. I've got to think about how we get that out with a scalpel, etc. Okay, now I'll see if I can start to remove the silicone. Again, I've got a brand new scalpel blade. I'm just gently pushing that in close to the aluminium and trying not to scratch the anodizing, but you need to get it right next to the aluminium. I can feel I'm nearly at the bottom. Okay. to go towards my other hand, just in case it slips. Right. I'm curious to see how easy that lifts up. Yes. It doesn't lift up at all. We've got a bit more to do. Let's have a look at the inside edge. That looks like that's parallel. Flip it over. We've got a lot more work to get that to become, even start to become free. Right, I need to get something to protect the floor as well. Marking the floor. Right. Okay, so I'm going to try and get some of the silicone out so I can lift the glass out. And I have already cut with my scalpel very close to the aluminium, all the way around the outside. I think I've done that fairly thoroughly. You just need to go several times. It's quite hard to do that. And then I want to do the inside edge. I'm angling the scalpel slightly in towards the perspex, the acrylic. top edge of the acrylic. Look, I've got a very slight radius to it. So I think it's probably better to only go a few millimeters deep at a time. I can actually see the edge of the scalpel through the acrylic. Oops. There we are. I'll keep doing that. I'll put the video on again in a minute. Actually, I might try and take some of this out. So this screwdriver is just the right width for lifting this out. Oops. To push fairly hard to get it to come. There we go. What I thought I'd do is, in order to apply some pressure, I'd put something underneath here to push down on. You can feel it. You can just move the perspex. It's a bit more work needed. Right. So I've removed all the rubber from the edge, and now with my thumbs I've just been able to gradually ease the glass. Put the acrylic out. It's two edges. This has come out with the doesn't want to come out of there. Oops, fingers caught. There we go. Well, I think it's very important to not to break the acrylic, as you want to use it as a copy, as a pattern. That doesn't want to come out so easily. There we go. It's coming. Caught where the hinges, where the 3 hinges are. That's where it's hanging on last. Pull it away, I suppose. It's hanging on here. There we go. So what's happened is the seal strip. Right. There we go, that's out. And it's got the seal strip, the foam, stuck around the edge of the glass. Okay, now I've got to clean up the rest of the silicone. So now I'm removing the foam strip around the edge of the lens. I'm gently pulling it away. The reason I need to clean up the lens is because I want to copy route the lens for the new glass, for the new acrylic. Anyway, it's just a job of gradually paring away. This tape I think I've measured as 3mm by 12. It's not too bad a job. A bit of fiddle. And I'm going to have to clean up the there might be a better way to do this. It's quite sticky, this stuff. This might be a long-winded way of doing it, but it's quite effective and it just goes steadily. There we are. Anyway, I think that's fairly obvious. I'll leave that there. So I'm now trying to remove the last bits of the silicone, and what you can see, there are just little bits left. I've scraped most of it off, And then I've used a silicone sealant remover, just slap that on and leave it on for a couple of hours, and then it helps to get it off. You can just see helps to take the last little bits off. And probably if I rub that now with a finger or a bit of plastic, that will come off. There you go, just very gently. Now anyway, the screwdriver. I'm not sure that's great. Fingers probably just as easy. Oh, I'm probably not meant to get that stuff on my fingers. There you go. And that cleans up like this side here, which I did yesterday. So there's a tiny bit more to be done here, but pretty good. Here we go. So this is the best tool. It's a West System plastic mixing spatula. If you just rub that on, it doesn't scratch the anodizing. It just lifts the last little bits of silicone. That works very well. Corners may not be so good. Got a lot of that off. Wipe that. Yucky stuff. And that comes off quite nicely with that. Anyway, there we are. This is showing where the rubber seal is glued to the underside. So where the seal is cut away around the hinges, they're actually glued down. And my frame has got some corrosion on the edge where the clamps are. So I've got a few bits of corrosion on this side, and then I think right over the other side there's a little bit down here as well. So you can see, I'm not quite sure what that dent is. Anyway, well, it goes right through there, so I've got to find a way of sealing those up again. So I've now filled in the bits of corroded metal on the frame with marine weld epoxy, and I used a technique of filling them in where I used a small drill bit and carefully actually made sure I got rid of all the corrosion, because it's surprising how deep it goes. So I used a small drill bit, you can see in this one, little round circles, and I drilled out right just to make sure I had clean aluminium. And then in order to fill them with epoxy, I masked them off as best I could with some masking tape, so that I didn't get too much epoxy on the surrounding metal. I mean, I've obviously topped them up. And I used a scalpel to make sure I had an extremely thin layer. And in one place two places, the corrosion had gone right through. So it'd gone right through here, and I think it had gone right through in another place as well. But you can see those have all been filled with epoxy. And now I'm about to fit the rubber seal. So this is the rubber seal, and it is hooked in on the back edge here, and then goes over the front edge with this lip here. And the groove that the back edge goes in, this is upside down obviously, goes in that way. The groove that back edge, that edge fits into, is quite narrow. And I have found no way of being able to push it in from this way up. You actually have to have it almost upside down backwards to get it in. Now you notice I've got 3 slots in the edge so that these go over the hinge pieces. They fit like that. So you have to cut those out in the right place. And then I'll show you how I manage the tool I use for getting that lip into that groove. So to get this little lip into that groove, I actually use an epoxy mixing tool, and a little plastic one. You just have to gently push it in like that, piece at a time. Oh, popped out. And I think the difficult bit is going to be doing the corner. Ooh. As the chap at Eagle Windows said, good luck fitting the seal on an ocean hatch. It looks like it's a bit of a pig to do. Right. So I've turned it upside down now, but getting it into the corners isn't too bad. The problem is that you end up with a ruckle on the inside corner. So what you have to do, what I've had to do is I've had to stretch the outside corner a bit by pulling this around here. Actually, is it lifted in the corner? It might have lifted. I don't know, but that has to be glued down. So anyway, that's what I've done so far. So we now come to the day where we've got to silicone in the acrylic into the frame. And what I've done already is I've taped up both the frame tightly to the edge and also the acrylic, and used the sharp scalpel to go around the corners. And then the next job that we've got to do is to put a double-sided tape into this groove here. So between the rub on the bottom, between the rubber and the side, we've got to put some double-sided tape. And I have bought here some 3M VHB tape, which so it's very high bonding. It's also, this is also quite dense. It's a dense foam. Some of the window foams that you can buy are not nearly as dense as that. So I haven't put that on yet. And the difficult bit will be going around these corners and how to do that smoothly. I have tried some of the less good tape and tried to bend it round a corner, and you can see it sort of wrinkles. And if you actually do it with the orange tape still on it, it won't go round a bend very easily at all. You suddenly get a big kink. It's better without it on. But anyway, so we've got to experiment with that. And then the last issue is that the gap between the acrylic and the frame is only about 4mm. So a normal nozzle cut at an angle would be too big. So what I've done, and we're going to need to experiment with this, we get some glued heat shrink, stuck it to the end of the tube, and I'm hoping that by shaping it, by squeezing it, it will go in the gap, and then we can fill it up with acrylic from the bottom. Anyway, that's to be done today. Right, we've stuck the acrylic in, my able assistant, Jonathan. We stuck the acrylic in on tape, and now we're going to silicone around the edge. And what I've done is I've made a narrow, I've had to form the end of the tip in a narrow tip to see if I can get it down the groove. So we're going to give it a go. Actually, I suppose because this goes down quite a way in here.
Yeah, it does.
But we want it right in the bottom, don't we?
Ideally, yeah.
Oh gosh. Is that going down? Can you see? Where's that little stick?
There were 4. Here we are.
Well, there's a longer bit. I think it is actually going to the bottom.
I think it is.
What shall I do? Shall I come and go on top?
I think that's probably a good idea to do a bead right down in the bottom as far as you can, and then come back and top it up. Well, I suppose if you squeeze out more, it will just erupt up like a volcano. Even if you are fully down in there, if you carry on squeezing, it'll just rise up,
it will, which is probably a better way of doing it.
Possibly.
It's better than laying it on top. Yeah, look, this is better.
Less risk of an air gap, I should think.
Yeah. How's that?
I think that's great.
I might run out of arm strength. Have I put enough in?
I think there you have. Should I just get the troweling tool and just do a little experiment?
You've got one in front.
There you go. And which bit do you use?
I should use the flat.
The flat?
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
I'm going to put some more in here, just so that you've got a complete. This is quite hard on the gun.
Right. So shall I just do it?
So this is the finished hatch, and I'll just show you some details of how the silicone's gone in, and you can see here the silicone has filled the whole slot, but you'll also notice that in 1 or 2 places, like there, the acrylic hasn't stuck completely down to the double-sided tape, and in fact here the silicone has actually squeezed through the gap that was left. And the problem was that when I put the masking tape on the top of the acrylic to the edge before we stuck it into the double-sided tape. So when we put it down in the double-sided tape, we couldn't actually see through the masking tape to see how well it had stuck to the double-sided tape. So that's a lesson for next time. What I actually ended up doing when I took the tape off was I actually stood on the side of the acrylic to get it to go further down to the tape. But I don't think that's a problem in terms of the sealing of the acrylic. I think it's just a cosmetic issue. And the other thing is, when you take the tape off, the question is at what time do you take it off? You can see just here I actually took the tape off after about 4 or 5 hours, and it just started to gel, and where the tape might have been a bit too far over, it's just pulled the silicone out ever so slightly at that point, and here it's much better. But I don't think that that's going to be a problem in terms of sealing, because I'm sure it's stuck just below that point. And in fact, I showed you the nozzle that I was going to use, but we found that this particular nozzle was best. So what I did with this nozzle was I heated the end of a normal nozzle up and just squashed it in the vise so that it's had a narrow tip, and then I drilled a small sort of 2 or 3 mil hole in the end, and we found that worked very well, because it would go in the slot, and you could see the silicone going to the bottom of the slot and building up from there. So that worked best. And I'm just reminding you of the actual particular tape that we use, the double-sided tape, which is the 44991 3M tape, which is this stuff here. It's 2.3 millimeter thick, so it may be a tiny bit thin, but it is thicker than the lip on the rubber. And you can see here, you can just see the witness of the lip on the rubber coming up, whereas in other places you can't see that. So the tape is holding the acrylic just off the lip of the rubber, which I think is okay. So there we are. The final thing is to leave it for several days. So we did this on Sunday. It's now Tuesday morning. So you've got to leave it for at least 2 or 3 days, really, before moving it around. And because this particular silicone, Arbor Sil 1090, which was recommended to me, it dries at 1 millimeter per day per 24 hours. So there's a 12 millimeter deep slot, so it won't actually cure properly for probably 10-12 days, or at least. But I think that we should be able to move it and fit it in about 3 or 4 days, because I think the top certainly will be cured, and it won't it shouldn't move around too much. Anyway, so there we are. Thank you.